Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Dam, and you are watching Flick Connection, the show that helps you get more out of movies. And with me just hitting 20,000 subscribers, welcome to my 20,000 subscriber spectacular, where I'm going to share with you my 20 absolute favorite movies that are currently available on Netflix, as well as a bunch of my other favorite things that I've got here behind the counter that I'm going to share with you for the first time ever. So let's just kick this list off with one of the movies, and it's one of the lesser known movies I've got on this list. It's called Small Town Crime. It stars John Hawkes. It's a really cool little, I guess I'll say neo-noir movie. Very, very low budget, but it's really fun and it's gritty. So it's got an edge to it, but John Hawkes plays a really cool character, essentially an alcoholic who is a ex-cop who's on a case, sort of, and there's people in this small town that do not want him to be digging up what he's digging up. The performance from Hawkes and several others in the movie really make this sort of a unique little gem that's just really enjoyable to watch. I like it a lot, and like I said, it is one of the lesser known ones you're going to find on this list. And no, this is not what it looks like, or maybe it is. Like I said, I'm going to share some of my favorite things, but one thing I've always wanted to do, and sort of to kick this off as a celebration in honor of the 20,000 subscribers, I've always wanted to saber a bottle. So we're going to try to give this baby a crack open, and just, let me get it out of the way. Oh, shit. Oh, shit, oh, shit, oh, shit. Okay, yeah, you're bleeding, and I don't think it's as deep as it looks. Yeah, dude, just keep, we'll finish up, yeah, put pressure on it just like that, and, Jesus. Yeah, you're good. We're good. Next movie, The Dark Knight just recently got added to Netflix. No idea why I'm excited about that. I've seen this movie enough times. I own more than one copy of it, but I really do love it a lot. It's really, in my opinion, the best movie based on a comic book ever made, and probably will be for quite a while. There's so many great elements. The performance by Heath Ledger alone really just makes this movie what it is. And even without that, this would be a great movie, but that really does make it, you know, the classic that it is. And then also, Batman Begins is currently on. I absolutely loved Batman Begins when it came out. Was not excited for it, but just couldn't believe how good it was. And then, I gotta say, still to this day, The Dark Knight, I have not been more excited to sit in a theater while the opening, you know, logos start coming up. Outside of my children being born and getting married, that is probably one of the most exciting moments I've had in the last 10 years. And yes, The Dark Knight is 10 years old already. Of course, I put on my favorite shirt for this fucking episode. Jesus. You alright? Alright. Se7en is also on Netflix right now. It has been for a little while. I've talked about it before. I've even done a long explanation, you know, and given all sorts of like cool little background elements on the movie. I'll put a link in the description below for that. But this one's such a classic, and it's so incredible how good this movie is, considering it's one of David Fincher's first movies. Knocked it out of the park. Genre-wise, it's one of my favorites. The climax is so well directed that even when you know the twist, it's still so engaging to watch because you can see all sorts of little nuances in the performances and the editing, everything. This movie is just top-notch, top to bottom, one of my favorites. And then another Fincher flick that they just added is The Game, which in my opinion is absolutely fantastic. It just gets a little overshadowed by Fincher's better work like Se7en and Fight Club, which sort of sandwiched The Game. But if you've never seen The Game, I highly recommend checking it out. They just added it in the last week or two. God, it's getting hot in here. Whew. Speaking of hot, Michael Mann's Heat is currently on Netflix. In terms of the crime genre, it's my absolute favorite movie. Unless you include Goodfellas, which you kind of have to, but it is a mob movie. But cop and robber movie, Heat is a masterpiece and the best one ever made. That includes old classics. This one is just so well done. It does so many things right, including the shootout, which when you even include Westerns, Heat has the best and most expertly executed shootout in movie history. And it might be a long time before we see something done better. It's so incredibly well done. The performances are so good. The cinematography is so beautiful. This movie's famous for just making Los Angeles look beautiful at a time when Los Angeles was just concrete colors that just did not convey well on film. It was a notoriously ugly city to film, and Michael Mann just brought it to life. This is one of my top 10 movies of all time, currently available on Netflix. If you've never seen this movie, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, especially if you watch it on my recommendation and come back to tell me what you thought. On the tails of Heat, I want to recommend a movie called Cold in July. Another one of the smaller, little lesser known movies on this list. It takes place in the 80s. It's got a great cast. It's a really cool thriller. Not unlike this episode, it takes some really weird twists and turns that you're not going to expect. You're going to feel like this is going in one direction and it's just going to juke to the left and then juke back to the right. I've talked about it on the channel before, and I've gotten so many comments of people coming back telling me they love it. If you've never seen it, I cannot recommend it enough. And on the heels of Cold in July, another one of my favorite things is cold SpaghettiOs with weenies right out of the can. There's just something about it. It's always been one of my favorite things to eat. Part of the appeal is just the simplicity of it, you know? I don't have to bother heating anything up. I don't have to bother dirtying a dish. I mean, when you really think about it, I don't even really need to bother with a spoon. And while I'm celebrating, I'm cracking open the W.L. Weller 12 year, which is my favorite bourbon. It's not particularly expensive, but it's very hard to find. It's very hard to come by. So I've been nursing this bottle for like 2 years. I only have a tug of it on special occasions, and man, it's really some of the best stuff you can get for around $30. If you ever see it, don't hesitate to grab it up. Ooh, it's got some heat on it. Casino is currently available on Netflix. One of my favorite Scorsese movies, and I'm a huge Scorsese fan. Goodfellas is my overall favorite movie of all time. Casino is not far removed from Goodfellas. It's almost as good in a lot of ways, and in some ways it's better, meaning it does some things better. It's so fast-paced. There's so much music in it. I think there's 60 different tracks in it. Robert De Niro wears 60 or so different suits in it. It just like bang, 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 bang. It just goes through this crazy epic story of Las Vegas during this time. It's such an incredible way to experience that, like in a way that a documentary could never convey some of this craziness to you. I absolutely love watching it. Even though Goodfellas is my favorite movie, I gotta say, Casino is more fun to watch. The Departed is also available, another great Scorsese movie. When this came out, I really had a hard time determining whether that was going to be my new favorite movie or whether it was going to remain to be Goodfellas. Time has showed me that it really is Goodfellas. It's a stronger movie, but I gotta say, and I know I'll get pushback on this, I really think The Departed is one of the best composed and paced movies of all time. This movie moves at such an expert pace. It's like a breakneck pace. It's so good in so many levels. I absolutely love this one. The action in it's great. The drama in it's great. But man, if you want to watch this one again, you will enjoy it. Just pay attention to how quickly you just move through this movie, and watch Casino with that in mind too. It happens there, but it's much more expertly like honed in and figured out by the time Scorsese got to The Departed. And then finally, another Scorsese movie, Gangs of New York. Not his best directed movie. It is good, but it doesn't compare to the others I just mentioned. But the performance by Daniel Day-Lewis is my favorite of his, and I love There Will Be Blood. That's one of probably my top 10 movies as well. But The Bill the Butcher is so fun. in ways his other roles are not. So I absolutely love this one. It's well worth the 3-hour watch time. Full Metal Jacket is also on Netflix at the moment. I believe it's the only, no, Eyes Wide Shut is also on there, but there's not any other Kubrick movies on there. And Full Metal Jacket really is great. It kind of gets, in my mind, people don't talk about it much because it's just like so widely watched and appreciated. But the really cool thing about Full Metal Jacket is you go through all these different sequences. You've got the boot camp sequence, and you've got where they're overseas. Then you've got sort of this battle sequence at the end that I almost forget is even in the movie. Every now and then I've watched it and I forget that there's this like almost not an action sequence but a battle sequence towards the end. Such a great movie from asshole to elbow. Absolutely love this one. It's been a long time since I've watched it, but it's another one of those ones I can't get too excited about it being added because I own more than one copy of it. Speaking of more than one copy, Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 are on Netflix. Kill Bill Volume 1, like I said, The Dark Knight was my most anticipated movie, and the payoff was there. Kill Bill Volume 1 was the most exciting, exhilarating theater experience maybe I've ever had. I saw it in a sold-out theater, opening night. Just knew I liked Tarantino movies, but didn't really know what to expect. Hadn't seen too many things about it. This is before YouTube. This is before like heavy trailer consumption like we have today. And it was just bonkers. People in the theater were screaming and laughing and just having this like crazy time. And actually, that completely led to me like having to break up with the girlfriend I had at the time, which ultimately Tarantino movies led me to meeting my wife and, you know, having the 2 beautiful children that we have. I did a whole story on that once before. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. And just to try to stick with some sort of theme here while I'm sharing things that I love, because I'm kind of 50-50 on which of the 2 Kill Bills I like most, this is one of my favorite beers right now. It's 50-50, SPF 50-50 by Red Hair Brewing Company. Absolutely love this one. Such a good summer beer, and it just goes down so smooth. Yeah, that's good. Fucking keep pressure on it, dude. We're almost done. LA Confidential. I've always loved this movie. It's got so many great scenes in it. I really am just partial to that time period. And I love movies like Chinatown, like maybe not as much as everybody else. People really gush about that one, but I really like LA Confidential. I like all the characters. Some of the scenes are just great. The raids are great. The chases are great. The drama and the double crossing and the story plays out so well. Just a really great sort of throwback kind of a movie that maybe doesn't get the appreciation it really deserves today, because it really is just a really well-rounded movie. I mentioned There Will Be Blood is one of my favorites. It's not on Netflix, but Boogie Nights, one of Paul Thomas Anderson's first movies, is, and I really like this one a lot. A lot of people maybe didn't bother to watch it because it is completely about the porn industry, or at least takes place within the porn industry, but the performances are incredible. Mark Wahlberg, really, if you've ever doubted his acting skills, he does an amazing job of like playing a bonehead in this one. Really sells it well, and not like in a hammy way. Like, I think it works incredibly well, but everybody's great in this one, and it's fun at times. But just like Goodfellas, the first half is fun. You sort of get swept up in this party atmosphere, and it's just colorful and everything. And then things take a dark turn, and everyone has to kind of pay for their hedonistic lifestyle in one way or another. And it's just so perfectly written and so well directed. It's just got this really cool vibe to it. So in honor of just showing you things that are my favorites, here is my favorite scene from Boogie Nights.
This is a giant cup.
Such a cool scene. Glad I could share that with you. Moving on, Sin City, another one that I absolutely remember watching in the theater. Loved every second of it. I studied graphic design in college, and this movie just really melded graphic design, like two-dimensional design, and film in a way that like I had never seen before and really haven't seen since. The look of it was so beautiful, but I also loved that just sort of gritty, slightly cheesy, hard edge kind of shit in this movie. Love everything about it. Love the music. And speaking of the music, I want to share one other thing that I love, which is this. This is one of my favorite songs by Tom Waits that kind of reminds me a little bit of Sin City. Absolutely love that track. Excited to share it with you. If you like it, let me know in the comments below. But moving on, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Loved this one. Knew I was going to like it before it came out. Love Michel Gondry as a director. Wish he was still making movies. I hate that he just sort of like disappeared. But to be honest, I'm kind of fuzzy and can't really remember all the things I like about this one. So moving on from that one, Jurassic Park. Not the first theater experience I remember, but the first movie I really remember just being like completely enamored with. Was my favorite movie for like a whole decade. Loved everything about it, wanted everything there was to do with Jurassic Park. I was in second grade when it came out and just could not get enough. And the crazy thing about that time period was it was 4 years before this movie came out, or almost 4 years before this movie came out on VHS. So I saw it once in the theater and then had to wait that long till I could see it again. I aged a lot during that time. This is still one of my favorite movies. I've moved on a little bit, but I absolutely love the first more than any one that they've made since. And here is one of my favorite scenes from the movie, sort of paired up with the theme of one of my favorite shows. Speaking of shows, The Truman Show is one of, if not, yeah, it is my favorite Jim Carrey movie. I love everything about the movie, but the ending of this movie is so great. You know, this epic escape, and then the sailboat hits that wall. It's such an incredible shot. And there's such a sense of hopelessness, immediately followed by the staircase and the door. And it's just one of the best endings I've ever seen in a movie. I love this one every time I watch it. I probably won't watch it while it's on Netflix because I've seen it enough. But that's what I'm doing today. I'm sharing with you my absolute favorite movies. And then my last favorite movie, my 20th one on this list, is It Follows. One of the better horror movies to have come out in recent years. Some people complain about not liking it, but honestly, they're the same people that complain that there's nothing new, everything's a rehash. This movie was new. Yes, it did recycle some things, but it was something new and different, and I can't wait to see the next thing like it. Absolutely love it. What I can kind of wait to see is what follows pouring 12-year-old whiskey on top of cold SpaghettiOs. But that is it for this episode. Thank you for hanging in there through all the shenanigans, and I will keep making ones like this as long as you keep watching them. Well, thanks for watching this one, and you will see me next time.